My lord. Lieutenant Titus reporting for duty.
What are you staring at, you wee push cunt? We gonna have a fucking Pokemon fight or what?
Oh no.
Oh, I mean, who the fuck does she think she's having a wee?
She's Scottish.
Warhammer 40k is a setting that I have a complicated relationship with. You see, I love the setting. You might call me an enjoyer. I've been consuming 40k books and games for over 20 years now. And while not everyone was a winner, Space Marine was one of the games I enjoyed and had no strong negative feelings about. Well, except Leandros.
I don't know about this guy. I'm scared. I don't want to do it. I'm too scared.
This guy fucking sucks.
I hate him with a fiery passion. Leandros is the guy who shows up to an office job on the first day and reads the handbook front to back. And then while he's being trained by someone clearly more experienced than him, who's been there for like 10 plus years and knows all the ins and outs and nuance, every time he does something slightly off book, he just quotes the handbook to him constantly.
Codex Astartes leaves no room for doubt. You cannot touch the warp and emerge unscathed.
Are you kidding? Fuck this guy.
Basically, he's a Warhammer 40k fan. What's that? You think something is cool? Well, don't worry. A fan has saved up 10,000 good boy points with Mommy, giving him just enough tendies and sauce to read the wiki for 48 hours straight without sleep.
You forgot my law. He doesn't exist. Shut up about it.
And now he's going to tell you everything you already know, and a bunch you don't, half of which contradicts itself within the same article, and then conclude by explaining that mulching 1,000 babies a second is important, because without it, the Emperor might get bored and the world will end.
I would laugh at how silly and full of angst that idea sounds if it were not for it being true. Actually, fuck it, I will laugh anyway.
And to that I say, Brother 10 Spiders in power armor, take this man to the penis explosion chamber, have his penis exploded and reduced to its base materials immediately. We will use those materials to make bullets. You see, when I said I had a complicated relationship with Warhammer 40k, what I really meant is I have a complicated relationship with everyone else who likes Warhammer 40k. But for me, Space Marine 2 is, as a longtime enjoyer, a fantastic experience. It's not innovative or amazingly written, but it doesn't need to be. It's a game where you play as a Space Marine and you feel like a Space Marine. The movement, the weapons, the animations, everything feels refined in a way that makes me feel exactly like a Space Marine should. A game like this is going to heavily be affected by the vibe it gives off, the general feel of whatever you see or do. Something as simple as a walk animation can make a big difference. A Space Marine should feel heavy, and not heavy like your mom, but heavy because they have big armor, big weapons, and even bigger cocks. Some people I know were concerned seeing trailers and videos of a Space Marine dodge rolling, and I get it. My giant blueberry wearing 10 times his weight in metal should not be from slop rolling, but once they played, their fears were dismissed. Somehow, they managed to both capture that feeling of being heavy and slow, while also not feeling frustratingly sluggish. Everything feels weighty and heavy, from the movement to the attacks to the bullets themselves, yet they don't feel slow in a way that would be frustrating to deal with, like your mom.
Is this all you will provide? A cavalcade of odious goofs?
I've seen some people say that the story was not good, and I think I'd have to ask, what do you mean by good? Yeah, it's not amazing writing. It's not super compelling or deep or intriguing, but I also don't feel it needs to be. Some games are story heavy, and the story is the core of the experience. The gameplay is there to help you experience what the story is there to deliver, but some games the story is there just to give the gameplay a way to express itself, a reason for what's going on. In the case of Space Jam 2, The Returning of Titus, we're here to feel like a Space Marine in Warhammer 40k. We're supposed to soy pog at all the Warhammer stuff and grunt loudly as we simultaneously cum our pants and rip a Tyranid in half as we experience the true meaning of the Sigma grind set. I'm not here for a deep, meaningful plot. I'm here to explode with masculine energy, while my bullets explode the heads of my enemies. I'm here to see a dreadnought yell about slaughtering chaos while causing tremors with each step it takes. Now, the PvP mode It's fun. And while I have not gone deep enough into it to microanalyze it in this video, I've enjoyed it much like I did in the first game. The classes feel like they do what they're supposed to do, and while the time to kill isn't too fast, it's not so slow as to feel frustrating. It's definitely one of those things where I have no real complaints, but I'm probably not going to sink a million hours into it. It wasn't really why I picked up a Warhammer game. But I do understand why other people have been finding it enjoyable. The thing that I most enjoyed, however, is the co-op. I played through the main story with my 2 boy toys and it was a great time, but it did often feel like a semi-tutorial for the thing we have put the most time into, operations. Designing our own Space Marine and then going into the missions as a particular class has been a lot of fun. I am quite partial to Heavy and Assault, but having at least played each class once, I can say I enjoy all of them for different reasons. Despite my early reservations on things like perfect dodging or parry, I have actually found the mechanics quite engaging and fun without feeling like an annoying burden. Parrying a boss actually feels very good and makes playing a melee heavy class feel meaningful. On that same note, being able to bust out Big Dick Heavy and mow down minions and special heavy units alike with heavy bolter fire feels really good. I only have 2 actual complaints about operations. The first being I just wish there were more levels. Yes, I know they're gonna make more season pass, season this, blah, 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 blah. And yes, with the campaign, there are 12 levels in the game. But in all honesty, if you just gave me operations with 12 levels instead of the campaign, I'd have been just as happy or even happier. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed our little adventure with Chairfucker.
Chairs are supported most often by 4 legs and have a back. However, a chair can have 3 legs or can have a different shape.
And the Suspicion Man.
I'm watching you, Wazowski. Always watching.
But as good as it was, I wouldn't miss it if I just received twice as much operation content. Not because the campaign was bad, but because the operations are just that good. The other thing is, I do wish the AI was better for your team. I love co-op, but sometimes my homosexual lovers are not available. But with the AI being so dumb that they only seem to care about what's going on when I'm already dead, it can make it a lot less fun as the missions are clearly designed around playing with other people. So maybe the developers could come in and give the AI a little bit of a additional pass, make it a little bit better for those of us who play with ourselves. Now, since I am already on the topic of negatives, I'm gonna go ahead and talk about some of the things that will upset the most people, my other complaints. The game is fantastic overall, but its biggest issues don't come from the core gameplay itself, which I'm a big fan of, but from technical problems and UI decisions. These are not game ruining, but man, can they be frustrating. These little moments where you go, what were they thinking? Stuff like this crane having a square hitbox, but its actual model having an empty space. Other objects can fall into the empty space, but I cannot. So this ammo box is forever lost to me. Or how the cursor becomes super slow and heavy like your mom. Anytime it's over an interactable object. I understand that in theory, this is because they want you to have an easier time clicking the buttons when you're moving the cursor around on a controller. But when the menu is mostly buttons, it just means that the cursor moves insanely slow all the time. Unless, of course, I switch over to mouse and keyboard. And while that is a solution for me, if you are, say, on a console, that's going to be a lot harder and more frustrating. But the decision that truly baffles me is when there's a connection error. I have more than once been disconnected right at the end of a mission, which is insanely frustrating. Excuse me, sir, you seem to have lost connection. Would you like to quit or quit? You'd think when a menu pops up after a disconnect, you're being given the option to either continue with AI companions or go back to the mission select. But instead, your options are leave or leave. No other option. This is a pretty big oversight, and while it has been happening less, since less people are playing the game, I'm assuming the lobby system is under less strain, it still happens at all. And that's a pretty big problem. Another baffling one is switching levels, classes, or weapons. This is just a decision that I wonder what the thought process was. Instead of clicking on one and then hitting accept, just swapping over to it in a menu selects that thing. In example, if you are in game mode select and you button click over to co-op from the campaign, it switches to that mode, but there is no real indicator that it did that. So your first instinct is to click something to switch, which then has the game try and find a group for you and load you into a mission. Now, if instead of clicking on anything, you would simply hit back, you will now be in your own lobby for that mode. But that is not clear. Everyone I know, and I do mean everyone, even your mom, has made that error. And while it's not a big deal, once you already understand how it works, it's a very strange strange design decision. This same thing also happens with classes and weapons. If you switch which class you are looking at in the armory, you switch to that class in lobby. Not a huge deal, as you can quickly swap back, but it's a strange decision nonetheless. And with weapons, that can happen even more so, and sometimes you don't even realize it and accidentally bring the wrong weapon because you had modified it in the loadout. Now, do all these things ruin the game? No. Overall, it's a lot of fun, and gets my testosterone pumping as I rip my way through hordes of enemies. But there are things that if I was talking to a developer, I'd bring them up as feedback, so I have to mention them here. All of that said, even with some complaints, the reality is no game is perfect, and Space Marine 2 feels like a long-awaited return to the plot-light, fun-heavy co-op shooters of the past. I have more hours in games like Halo, Timesplitters, or Gears of War than I have in many games, and while I don't blame people for enjoying PvP modes and battle royales and things to that effect, the fact that so few old-school co-op shooters have come out in recent years, and instead developers have wasted $400 million making hero shooters featuring your mom, has been a big disappointment. So it's great to finally get a good quality experience like this one. Now, if you will excuse me, I need to go grind on, with my friends to unlock more sick armor designs and ignore my talents completely, because fashion is the true end game.